All right, we're live. Cohn and Krueger on what is this? I guess this is July 2nd on a Wednesday. Normally go on a Monday. We've gone on a Thursday, but it's a Wednesday, July the 2nd, getting ready for the 4th of July. Niners going to camp, coming up here. Rookies report July 15th. The veterans report July the 22nd. And then training camp is on the 9th year of Shanahan and Lynch. And we're going to talk a lot about the Niners, a lot of training camp battles and a bunch of things. Join us. Come aboard. All right, welcome to the Krug Show meets the Cone Zone. Hope everybody's having a good July 2nd, warm afternoon here in Walnut Creek. 4:05 West Coast, 7:05 East Coast. Hope everybody's having a great day. Welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. They have great barbecue. You're going to love it. If you're watching us live on YouTube, do us a favor. Hit the like button. Hit subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell. And so you will never miss a minute of Grant or I on our channels. And remember, once the live stream wraps up, you can all catch the full replay anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever your favorite platform is. On our end, just search The Krug Show and you'll find us. But, man, we got a lot to get to today. And, Grant, good to see you. A couple weeks of vacation. Hope you're enjoying your summer. But, you would think there's, slow time. But you asked me, hey, how about some topics for today's show? And I started thinking about it. I'm like, we have more topics than we have time to get to them.
We have 11, and I think that's the right amount. That's the right amount of topics for today. I can't wait.
Off and running. All right, let's get right into it, because to me, one of the real, you and I notice every little thing the Niners do, and since we know the team well, we're following it constantly. That sometimes moves that don't really move the needle for other people move the needle for us. And for me, one of those moves was this week. The Niners, it was reported, pursued free agent corner Damon Arnett, who signed, he's playing with the Houston Roughnecks or whatever of the UFL. Mm-hmm. And he signed with the Houston Texans and D'Amico Ryan for just over $1 million. But the Niners and Packers were also reportedly interested. And Arnett is a talent, man. Former first-round pick, Ohio State. Raiders took him, but he's had multiple off-the-field issues. And the Niners usually steer clear of off-the-field issues. So, to me, that sends a loud sounder that they are going to look under every possible stone to find a corner. And it tells me they don't like their corners. Now, they opted not to go after Jalen Ramsey, who got traded to the Steelers. But the Niners have $45 million in available cap room. It doesn't seem like they don't seem too interested in parting with any of it. But there's, you threw out Jamel Dean as a trade possibility. There's Asante Samuel in the free agent market. Rasul Douglas, Martin Emerson could be dealt by the Browns. How urgent do you think the Niners' need is at corner? And what do you take away from that Arnett interest?
I think it's fairly urgent. And I think the question was, how urgent do they think it is? Because, again, we talked about this last week. Lynch comes out, talks about the lumps that they're going to take this year. And it's like, well, wait. Where are these lumps going to happen? Because you have $46 million in cap space. It seems like you could protect yourself. And if you're starting to look around the roster, cornerback's an obvious one. You lost Charvarius Ward. Lenore just got arrested. Good player. Will he get suspended for a game or two? Don't know. And then after him, a bunch of guys who aren't really proven. So, sure, add a third cornerback. Why not? Damon Arnett is cheap, but he tips their hand that they agree with us. That cornerback is one of those lump spots. So they have Trey Brown, they have Upton Stout. They got to look at them both in the OTAs and minicamp.
What'd you think, by the way? Because I thought Stout looked good, but very, very small. And I thought Brown looked totally ordinary.
Yeah. Trey Brown looked exactly like Trey Brown. Sorry, he's been in the league a while. So Damon Arnett, it seems like they're trying to find a diamond in the rough like they did with Jason Verrett once upon a time. But that's kind of strange that they'd have to go sort of dumpster diving when they have all this cap space. And I really don't like it. Jed, if you're watching, you got to spend the cap space, because if you're putting Kyle Shanahan on the hot seat, if this year matters for him and you're actually holding him accountable, he has a great excuse if they miss the playoffs and like, well, we didn't spend cap space and that wasn't my choice. I'm just saying.
Let's talk about that for just a brief second. I mean, there's I think wisdom in rolling over cap space in certain years. I think there's also really wisdom in not rolling over cap space in certain years. Now, look at your team this year. Who are the key elements of your team? The key elements of your team, from what I can tell, are Christian McCaffrey in the twilight of a Hall of Fame type career. Same with Kittle. Same with Trent. Same with Bosa. Same with Fred. Right? Am I missing something here? All their best guys, for the most part, are their kind of in the prime, in the twilight of their prime years. Every single one of those guys, logic says, will be better in 2025 than 2026. So, and you, by the way, you are hosting the Super Bowl, so there is going to be some public referendum on your franchise, whether you like it or not, at the end of the year. Wherever you want to set the bar, there you will be discussed nationally and criticized nationally in your backyard by the NFL's media throng if you crap out this year with your easy schedule. So you would think they would be a little bit more competitive, but you've referenced it, and I don't know if it's fair or not fair, but the soccer impact on this. You know, they now are fronting multiple enterprises at one time in different leagues with different standards and different, whatever. And maybe, they could argue, I'm sure they would argue, oh, it's all separate. Each entity is separate unto themselves, but, they're all owned by you. So that you're the common denominator there. Is it possible they'll spend less on the Niners in some years to spend more to establish themselves in either of these two soccer leagues they're in?
I'd hope not. And so Asante Samuel is going to be having a medical recheck on his neck in a few weeks. If he passes that, it'd be nice to see the Niners go out and spend some actual money on a player who's not, coming off 7 arrests. Because look, I think the issue with these soccer teams, it's not necessarily the players they sign, because I think that does come from the pool of money that they earn as soccer teams. It's the renovations to stadiums. Like, first of all, $200 million on Levi Stadium this year to get it ready for the Super Bowl and the World Cup coming up next year. $200 million right there. And then they're also expanding the stadium for Leeds United. That's another 200 million pounds. So, I mean, that's coming out of the York's pockets, or maybe that's why they sold 6% of the team so they could get $500 million in cash. Probably went to those things, but yeah, those are big investments.
It's going to be interesting. Do they go for a veteran corner? I asked Robert Saleh a pretty direct question at the end of the minicamp. I said, hey, man, you got any dudes? You got any dudes in that cornerback room or what? You had Sauce, you had Reed. Those guys were dudes. You got some starters, but what do you have? And he's like, hey, man, let's wait till camp. He was kind of begged off because he didn't, he probably sees what I see. It just seems like you got Renardo and you got Diamador Lenore, and Stout looks pretty good. Even though he's small, he looks pretty good. And then after that, it's kind of a hodgepodge of just guys. I mean, Trey Avery, Chase Lucas is not the answer. I'll tell you that right now. Darrell Luter's intriguing, but, he also was a 5th-round pick in 23. He hasn't really made an impact yet. You got a couple undrafted guys. You got some Dallas Flowers has some interesting measurables. There's some interesting guys, but I don't, Saron Neal, on paper, when you look at the guaranteed money and how the contracts are written, he's probably going to make the team because he's guaranteed $2.25 million. So they're probably going to keep him no matter what. So we're really talking about maybe one corner, but the fact that they're interested in, or were showing interest in Arnett, tells me that they're interested. If you got a corner in August that you think you don't want, before you trade them, you should call the Niners because they're probably in the market for that. All right, let's get to topic 2.
Hold on real quick before we do. I mean, we hit the $46 million in cap space. They could get a corner, a safety, a wide receiver, an offensive lineman. All these lumps that they're preparing to take, they don't have to take them. This is totally a choice. And I don't think it's John's choice. I don't think it's Kyle's choice. I think it's the York's choice, and I think it's a terrible choice. And I think that fans should be aware of it and maybe a little bit, not like outraged, but vocal about it. Write to your local congressman and tell them you don't like this choice from the Yorks and that they should spend their money. It's their only job. It's the one job.
I mean, we got our first indication, I thought, in the undrafted market when you had everybody who's knowledgeable about the draft telling you, yeah, this is one of the deepest drafts in years. Guys that normally would be, third round picks are going to wind up in the fifth round. Guys who are fifth round picks are going to wind up undrafted. So this was the year to make a significant investment in the undrafted market, and the Niners were like 26th in undrafted free agent spending. Despite saying goodbye to a lot of veterans, and on paper, they should have a lot of opportunity on their roster. It's like, wow. I mean, they let some really good players go to their competitors that they probably should have signed, and the amount of savings to sit out the market is relatively nothing in the grand scheme of things. So to me, that sounds like an owner-driven belt tightening because it makes no sense as it relates to personnel gathering and roster building.
Can you imagine if the Warriors went into the season with $46 million in cap space? People would be like, this isn't fair to Draymond and Steph. I think the same thing applies to Trent and George Kittle. Wow, Trent is 37 years old. If you get 10 more games of his career, you should be happy. I mean, you can't plan for 2026 when he's this important to you, when Trent Williams is one of your core players. It's now.
Hey, let's be real. We want to be real. Let's be real. If I were running the 49ers and there was a time to come up with a slogan for the year, you know what my slogan would be? It's now or never. It's now or never. And that is straight across the board. Now, Brock, there may be some years there. There's a couple other guys that there's some years there. But for the stars of this football team, the guys that I just named, the guys who are Pro Bowlers, the guys who are borderline future Hall of Famers, they are not going to be better in 2 years than they're going to be this year. It is now or never. And I feel very strongly about that. And if people want to say that's a hyper negative take it for what it is. You're telling me that Trent Williams is better in 2 years? No. Bosa? No. Kittle? No. Warner?
And to your earlier question, why is it better to roll over the cap space to 2026? Why is it better to have cap space in 2026 and 2025? Those guys are just going to be older. You can always restructure players to create cap space. You've done it before. I don't understand why it's so important to roll over cap space for next year. I don't get that.
No, I guess my message would be show me a little bit more urgency since it is really now or never for so many of these future greats.
Bryce Huff was a nice move. Keep going.
What's that?
Bryce Huff was a nice move, man. Keep going.
Right. And you know what? It's not uncommon for NFL teams to add to their mix in the late spring and early summer. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about a couple of those names before we get out of here. Now, one spot that the topic two I want to get to is I did a deep dive because I'm looking at the Niners receivers and I'm thinking, okay, what do they got? They got Ayuk, but he's not there till November. They got Demarcus Robinson. He's probably not there till either late September or early October. So you really, even without any injuries, you're looking at like 4 wide receivers that you trust and then just guys off the street and undrafted guys that you're hoping on. At wide receiver, the Niners may be looking for some help in August. And I just wanted to take a look at who's really loaded at wide receiver around the NFL and who could potentially become available. And the 3 teams that I found that are loaded, one is Green Bay. Green Bay is probably going to wind up cutting Bo Melton. Bo Melton would be a great pickup for the Niners. The Jets are another team. They have like 8 wide receivers, and Malachi Corley is a guy that I think could get cut. The Chiefs are another team. They have a ton of wide receivers, and they signed a kid after the draft who reminds me a lot of Jawan Jennings, except he's faster. His name's Elijah Badger. He's from South Sacramento. He's a bit NorCal guy. Went to Florida. Good receiver, natural instincts, but they're going to try to squeeze him onto the practice squad. I would try to pluck him off. And then you've got Laviska Shenault in Buffalo. You got Jerry's kid with the Chargers. You got Nick Nash from San Jose State trying to make the Falcons roster, and you have Kendrick Bourne in New England likely to not make the New England roster. So I just gave you 7 names there. And I know a lot of people have talked about Amari Cooper. A lot of people talked about Gabe Davis. A lot of people have talked about Keenan Allen, and they're great names, and they've had great careers. But I kind of think the youth has to be served on the edge, and that's what I'll be looking for in August, to see which of those 7 guys gets exposed to waivers. And if any of them do, they're probably better than Tariq Owens or, whatever the Niners' 5th or 6th receiver is. So just remember those names: Bo Melton, Malachi Corley, Elijah Badger, Shenault, Rice, Nash, and Bourne. What do you think?
Those are good. Those are good names. The way I look at it is I want to give Ricky Pearsall and Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cowing an opportunity to win those jobs.
Yeah,
So you just saw Jordan Watkins. He was better than expected in OTAs. Give him a look. Give Ricky Pearsall a look. Give Cowing a look for a week or two in training camp and see if any of them look like actual dangerous contributors. If not, I would go sign Amari. The way I look at Amari, he's younger than George Kittle. He's right in that timeline with the older players. He had a down year last year. He was on 2 teams. I feel like if he was on one team through training camp, he'd be pretty good. He's an ex-receiver. He had 1,200 yards in 2023. He'd probably be pretty cheap.
What happened to him last year?
I mean, he was on Cleveland to start. I feel like he had such good chemistry with Joe Flacco in 2023. Then Cleveland sucks. Then he got moved over to Buffalo, and he just like, they didn't need him. They had a bunch of receivers, and they were running the ball anyway. I just feel like he kind of slipped through the cracks. But I think there might be one more year for him. I've always liked Amari Cooper. I think he's a hell of a player.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah. He's got great ball skills. He's a true pro, route runner. You know, a very professional receiver. It's just a matter of what happened last year.
He just turned 31. Wide receivers don't age well. He didn't do well last year, so that's a tough one. I like the names you brought up. Bo Melton's very interesting. I feel like he knows the system. He's a young and explosive player.
They're playing him at corner.
Interesting.
Just a little bit in minicamp.
Brandon Ayuk said he wants to play corner. You hear about this?
No, I don't want to see Brandon Ayuk play corner. That's all we need is to him. He tore his knee playing corner, trying to keep up with some receiver. All right, topic 3. And this is, I think, going to be pretty good. Give me your 2 takes on the Niners. Give me your most optimistic take. Doesn't have to be on the team and how they'll do. It could be on an individual player. Give me your most optimistic take that maybe you haven't said a lot, or your most pessimistic and your most pessimistic take. And it might just be something that you kind of sense. It doesn't have to be, because we haven't even had training camp yet. So this will all be decided on the field for many of these questions. But most optimistic Niner take, most pessimistic Niner take.
Okay. I think they're kind of related. So the most optimistic take is that, this is the most pressure Kyle Shanahan's been under maybe as a head coach, year 9. Coming off a 6-11 season, he has to produce. He might even be on the hot seat. I don't even know what's going to happen if he misses the playoffs again. So Kyle Shanahan, with his back against the wall with real pressure, coaches his ass off and reminds everyone how good he really is. Like last year, it seemed like I'm not going to say mailed it in, but just he was burnt. He just didn't have it last year. Now we're like calling him out, and he seems like he's even been challenged by his own owners. Okay, now we get to see the real Kyle Shanahan and the best of Kyle Shanahan. And it's not about Robert. Robert Saleh is a great coach, but Kyle's the head coach. And if he's lethargic and burnt out, then the team is going to be lethargic and burnt out. So his energy matters, and we're going to see the most energetic, the most focused and locked in version of Kyle Shanahan we've ever seen. I
like it.
Yeah.
He looked a little bit rejuvenated and seemed a little bit more batteries recharged when we saw him last. I'll give him that. We'll see how it wears this summer. But I don't know about you, but to me, I thought Lynch and Shanahan collectively going into last year were like,
it's like each other in the auditorium. Like, it's burnt out.
I mean, these guys look burned out. It's like, this is the beginning of the race. These guys look dog tired. All right, give me your most pessimistic take. The most pessimistic take you can drum up.
Oh my God. The rookies on defense aren't ready. The injury-prone players on offense get injured. The offensive line, which is thinner than last year, can't protect Purdy. He gets injured. I mean, the wheels could fall off this year. When things go bad for the 49ers, things go really bad and the wheels fall off. And then there's the Kyle Shanahan factor. Like, what if he really has aged 20 years over the last 9? What if he really is burnt out? What if an extra month of an offseason doesn't do much and he's really at the end of his tenure as the 49ers head coach? That getting rid of Tabor Pepper and Deebo Samuel was a symbolic gesture to try to repair the locker room, but it's still fractured. It's still there's still roster politics. There's still double standards. I mean, all the bad things pop up again, and all the winning that masked it in the past isn't there, and the losing really accentuates it.
All right, my most optimistic. That's a good one. That's a good one. My most optimistic take is that Isaac Guerendo can become really special. And it's like we're not talking about CMC. We're talking about CMC and Guerendo as a package, as a combo platter. I just think Guerendo just there's something about his size and speed. It's like, yeah, he's raw. Yeah, he doesn't read blocks. Yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, I mean, he's not that. He doesn't make all the right steps. He doesn't read the whole. It doesn't matter when you're that big and that fast. Just get him the ball in open spaces and watch him run. I mean, he had a couple of runs on these mini camps where he's down the sideline and remind me of Roger Craig and Jerry Rice. I mean, he's running the length of the field.
I mean, Debo never knew where to run or how to run, but he was an effective running back for years.
Yeah. I think this guy, in some ways, all the people going, Debo. I have a feeling this guy could be a faster Debo.
Yeah, bigger, faster. Maybe not bigger.
Faster. Well, a little taller. Yeah. So, I mean, I think Guerendo could be really, really good. Not like, he's pretty good. I think he could be great. He could be really great.
Especially if Kyle Shanahan is creative with him and has a plan, right?
And there'll be plenty of reason to be creative with no Ayuk in September for sure. So,
like who's going to be the how is Kyle going to express his gadget plays? It used to always be Debo and maybe Christian, but now like who is it going to be? Watkins, Cowan, Guerendo. There's got to be an outlet for it.
I think Watkins. I think we'll talk about Watkins too. My most pessimistic take, and I this is more. I'll freely admit it's not based on anything really, other than I got a scout's intuition. I'm worried about Alfred Collins. I'm worried. This might not age well. He may be a game wrecker, but that interview that he did with the media where he's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Well, he hasn't gotten on the field since. You know what I mean? He has not played a single practice. And yet he said to us, to our faces, yeah, I'm good. Physically, I'm good. I'm ready. I'm going to be.
Well, maybe it's the fact that he hasn't signed his contract yet. Only two second-round picks in the NFL have actually signed contracts. So maybe there's more going on than we realize.
Right. So that was the other concern, is that maybe and that does, in my opinion, and I know yours as well. That doesn't reflect on him. That there's a couple of players at the top of round 2 that signed fully guaranteed deals, and the agents for the rest of the guys in round 2 are like, hey, the precedent's been set. And so now everybody who's unsigned is asking for a completely guaranteed contract. But it was what he said when he was asked about football, and he's like, yeah, I don't watch a lot of football. I'm not a big fan of NFL football. Now, I'm not saying that you got to be, but I don't know, man. There's just some weird vibes about him. He hasn't gotten on the field. He says he doesn't watch football. Like CJ West has these incredibly great vibes. I'm just getting the iffy vibes from Collins. Now, he played all the games at Texas, so that's what's giving me pause to go, okay, don't worry. He played in all these games at Texas. He'll play when it matters. And his talent looks awesome, but he was a second-round pick. And, man, I don't know.
You know who his cousin is, right?
His cousin's Trent Brown, right?
Right. So Trent Brown, they drafted him in round 7. And I remember the first time I saw him in person, heard him talk, I thought, oh, no, absolutely not. This guy is immature, but not like in a bad way. He's just like young for his age. Like he's a young 22-year-old. Like he was like 6'7", 6'8", but almost trying to be smaller than like the kind of posture a teenager would have. And I was just thinking, nope, absolutely not. And then it's like, oh no, he's one of the most naturally gifted offensive tackles ever. I mean, so with Collins, maybe maturity will be a thing. Maybe like professionalism and work habits will be a thing. I just have a feeling he's going to be like very gifted because his cousin is.
I hope.
Yeah.
I want to see this guy on the field.
Remember, Trent Brown was a 7th round pick.
Yeah, but this guy has game wrecker, defense altering kind of talent. We're talking about 6'5", 320, 330, fast, long arms, athletic. I mean, if this guy can play and plays every down, it's going to be like, wow. So, but I'm a little concerned because we have yet to see Collins. All right, topic 4. Pittsburgh made a big trade. They picked up Ramsey. They picked up Jonnu Smith. They traded John. They picked up Jonnu Smith and they picked up Ramsey and they traded Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Dolphins. There were some draft picks in there as well, and it's led to some speculation about Darnell Washington, who was a first-round pick out of Georgia, who's huge and a great run blocker. But he's tight end 3 because there's Freiermuth, now there's Jonnu Smith, and then there's Darnell. I'm looking at the Niners at tight end. Only Kittle is the only two-way player that the Niners really have at tight end. Farrell looks to me to be a blocker and not much of a receiver. The rest of the guys look like receivers only who can't really stand up and block. What do you where do you put tight end in the need? They want Kittle in the pattern more, so they want more blocking tight ends. They added Farrell, but if Farrell can't do it, the rest of those tight ends are not great blockers. Would you offer a day 3 pick for Darnell Washington, who's 6'7", 265, and just say, hey, you know what? Let's bulldoze some people at the point of attack?
I would, but I don't think Kyle Shanahan would for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not sure that Darnell Washington necessarily fits his outside zone scheme. He might be more of like an inside zone gap drive blocker. And with Kyle Shanahan, he wants more guys who are like going to reach and run. I don't know if he can do it. I don't know. I haven't watched the tape, but there's a learning curve. And I think with Kyle, it's talent's important, but scheme fit's more important, and scheme knowledge is part of scheme fit. So also, ever since they drafted George Kittle, they've shown absolutely zero urgency to really improve this tight end room. And the fact that they gave Luke Farrell a 3-year deal makes me feel like they think they're set at this position, which is too bad because, yeah, Darnell Washington could help them.
Just an idea, but I like the idea. I saw Philly has interest, and man, the last thing I want to see is Philadelphia get another gigantic blocker on the line of scrimmage, and I'd almost want Washington just to make sure he doesn't go to Philly. All right, topic number 5. We got a good pace going. Which 49er player do you think makes their first Pro Bowl this year? Niners had 9 Pro Bowlers a couple years ago en route to the Super Bowl. Who's going to make their first Pro Bowl on the Niners this year? If you had to bet all your money on one name, who are you going with?
I think it'll be Deommodore Lenoir. I think he probably should have made it last year. Assuming he doesn't get suspended.
He was an alternate.
He's an alternate. So does he count?
No, he doesn't count because alternates don't count.
Okay, so I would say Lenoir. I mean, I think he's improved every year in the league. He needs to sort of like, I think cornerbacks need to be vocal and like be their own advocate to get people to aware of them. I think Richard Sherman showed that. Jimmy Ward followed the template. I think Lenoir is starting to talk. I think people are aware of who he is now. I think he'll get some awards this year.
I like it. That's a good one. I'll say
Pooney.
Yeah, there's Pooney. I would say Mustafa's really showy, depending on how quickly he gets healthy, because he could have some high-profile monster hits on some 5 or 6 national TV games, and people could be like remembering him. But I think Guerendo, back to my line of Guerendo's going to be a bust-out player. I think he's got Pro Bowl potential. I'll give you another one. I think Renardo Green. Last year, the Pro Bowl corners were J.C. Horn, Jalen Johnson, Byron Murphy, Devin Witherspoon. I don't know that Green's as good as any of those guys, but maybe Byron Murphy. He maybe could take Byron Murphy's Pro Bowl spot. But I like Renardo Green, and with Huff and a healthy Bosa and a rejuvenated line and Saleh, I'm banking on more rush up front, which should make Green a better player on the back end. What do you think of Renardo going to the Pro Bowl?
I think it's a good call. He's a really good player. The fact that he could have 13 pass breakups last year, despite the fact that he really wasn't a big factor early in the season, played 600 snaps. If he plays 1,000 snaps this year, he could lead the league in pass breakups, which is what Charvarius Ward did 2 years ago. He could sort of be that kind of a player. So we'll see. He's got a different defensive coordinator. See if if it translates. Last year, we thought Jair Brown was going to have an incredible second year, and he went the other way. So we've seen sophomore slumps. We still got to see if Renardo Green can come through, but I like him so far.
Yeah, I just think he did it without. The Niners didn't get a single sack in the final 7 games or something. They had no pass rush at all down the stretch. This year with Huff, I think it's bound to be better, and that makes your corners better. All right, camp battles. This was what I titled the stream, but we buried
Mhm.
the lead a little bit. But which training camp battle is, in your mind, either the most interesting or the most important this summer?
Mhm. I want to see running back because I think that they're in a new era here with Christian McCaffrey. I think they know it. They can't just use him the way they used him the last few years. He'll get hurt. Their season will be over. The best way for them to be in contention is to have him for 17 games. They know they got to be judicious with the way they use him, and that means that Garendo needs to be really good, or Jordan James need to be really good, or both of them. Corey Kiner. The Niners usually have a pretty stable passing game. You kind of know what you're going to get out of it, but when they're really good, it's like their running game is unstoppable. And you can't necessarily scheme that up. You need some talent there. Christian McCaffrey gave it to him for a couple of years, Mostert before then. I don't think it's going to be Christian like that anymore. So can it be a group of running backs? Can they complement each other? Can these young guys assert themselves? I think that's huge.
Just an aside, and I really like Christian. I know you do too. I know Christian's a solid guy. I think he's an easy guy to talk to. To me, he's a very low profile superstar. He doesn't have a big ego, but he doesn't have a big ego. But he also wants to take every freaking snap. And when I talked to Bobby T about him, he's like, "Yeah, I let Christian be Christian." In other words, Christian calls all the shots. He practices when he wants. He plays when he wants. I don't know. I mean, as you age, I would like to see that the Niners dictate to Christian. I know Christian, if you're watching this, would be like, shut the fuck up, Krueger. Stop. I'll dictate to them. But they've got a bunch of other guys. And here's the bottom line on this thing. If you told me, are the Niners going to win the Super Bowl? If somebody, and you get this question, I get this question. Are the Niners going to win the Super Bowl? Well, guess what? They got a real good chance if they could ever wind up to getting to Super Bowl Sunday with a fully healthy Christian McCaffrey. But we haven't seen it yet. So how about this, Christian? How about instead of taking every carry, including put the game away fourth quarter carries against these, sorry sisters of the league that you're going to play this year, and let's give those to Jordan James. Let's give those to Garendo. Let's give those to Juice if he's going to be on the team. Let's give those to Izzy Abanaconda. Anybody but CMC. When you're putting games away, when everybody in the stadium knows you're going to run, how about let's not subject Christian to those hits? I know he wants to be in there, but can they find another back that they can finish with or take some of the load off of Christian with? Otherwise, he's going to be a great regular season story who winds up with no Super Bowl rings.
I agree, and it's like he kind of has that Mamba mentality, like Kobe Bryant, like, I need to be in the game. I need every touch. It's like, I mean, that's admirable to an extent, but we also admire Steph Curry and Tim Duncan, who would sacrifice stats for the betterment of their team, and they were exemplary, incredible leaders and teammates. And I think we'd like to see that from Christian. I mean, I think the days of you saying, leave me alone, I'm going to stay on the field and carry, those days are over. And it's not just like, for the betterment of the team, it's for the betterment of you and for the extension of your career. If you do that again, you could pop your Achilles. Just because the bilateral Achilles tendonitis isn't there right now doesn't mean you're necessarily out of the woods. You got to be smart for yourself and for the team.
Be judicious with this guy. Use him, sparingly, especially with a big lead. You got a can full of good backs. I love the depth at running back. I think their depth at running back's real. Corey Kiner, real. James, real. Abanaconda, I think, is real. So they've got some guys. And I've already told you what I think of Garendo. To me, the two spots, I want to see D. Winters against Nick Martin.
It's a good call.
And I like D. Winters, but I just get the feeling that Nick Martin's going to take that job away from D. Winters. And then I'm really interested to see left guard. I know Barge is intriguing, but he's only got 22 NFL starts in his 5-year career. He doesn't really play more than a game or two without getting hurt. So I want to see, can Connor Colby step in from Iowa? I'll say this. I mean, John Lynch, you want to get, some pressure off you, have, Connor Colby step in at left guard and be, better than Aaron Banks. And that will be a great step in the right direction to people, not being critical of John Lynch. That's a day 3, 7th round offensive lineman that he found that I think fits his system. But That's what I'm looking for. Left guard with Barch, and then you got Zakel, you got Burford, who's supposedly only going to play tackle. You have Drew Moss and Connor Colby. Who is the left guard? Who's the weak side linebacker? Those are the two battles I want to see.
They got to see what they have in Barch. They got to see what they have in Zakel and Colby. And maybe I think Burford's now moving to the Jalen Moore backup left tackle role. So, yeah, they got to see what they got at left guard. And if it's nothing good, then maybe they should go sign Brandon Scherf. He's still available. He's the best offensive lineman out there. He was a first-round pick. He was a teammate of Trent Williams for about 4 seasons. He might cost the Yorks a little bit of money, but he's about Jake Brendel's age. I mean, he'd make them better. So if Ben Barch is doing great, by all means. But otherwise, there's other options.
Here's the thing about that. And I read your article on that. That was going to be one of the later topics, but we might as well just hit it right here. Niners have over $46 million in available cap room. We've already talked about it. And if you could add a realistic veteran to this roster, who would it be? Now, some people would say Amari Cooper. Some people would say Keenan Allen, Gabe Davis. I did a video this week about the defensive end that was in the wide 9 in Cleveland who just got cut, Ogbo Okoronkwo. I've talked about Shamar Stewart. I love Shamar Stewart. I think Shamar Stewart's going to be a superstar in the NFL. Niners are talking corners, Asante Samuel Jr., Rasul Douglas. I mentioned Darnell Washington. But you wrote an article about Scherf, and I think you kind of won me over. I don't get won over that much. But his pass block win rate last year was 93.8%. He's only 33. He played with Trent Williams before. He was the 14th ranked offensive guard in pro football. You have the most cap room. Scherf was a big-time player. I mean, we're talking about a guy that
Iowa.
I think he might have went in the top 5.
Oh, yes, he did.
He was a great college player, and he's had a very good career. Now, he doesn't have great mobility, so he's not going to pull around and find athletes in space, and you know what I mean. He's more of a power player, I think, than a movement player at this point. But guess what? 93.8% pass block win rate. That would improve your offensive line. I mean, if you really want to get serious about the Super Bowl, do you roll over $46 million of cap room, or do you go sign Brandon Scherf and let Barch be a backup and let these other guys kind of fill in as backups? Well, I don't know. The more I read that article, the more I thought, you know what? I might put Scherf and guard over, because I'd kind of given up the dream of finding offensive line help this summer, because I just didn't think it was a reality. But Scherf is pretty damn good. I know he's had some injuries. What do you think?
He hasn't missed a game in 3 seasons, man.
I know. I mean that's pretty amazing. Would he be the one veteran that you would add if you could add one?
Absolutely. I mean, I just think that as currently constructed, this offensive line could be the undoing of the whole season. It's just worse than last year. I mean, if you have Trent Williams, your backup left tackle matters, and they got worse at that position. But at least Banks was a solid starter. You don't even know that you have a solid starter at left guard anymore. Was he good? No. But he was a solid starter. If you bring in Scherf, you have a good left guard, you have a good right guard in Pooney, and you have a good left tackle. That's 3 good offensive linemen out of 5. That's great. Without him, you got 2, and then if Trent Williams gets hurt, you got 1, and you're back where you were last year. So I think, yeah, absolutely. And I would try to get an offensive tackle too. Who's the one from Arizona? Why is his name escaping me right now? DJ Humphries. When they signed him, that made a lot of sense. Andre Diller's not so good. I don't know. But I mean,
DJ Humphries did sign somewhere the other day.
With the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams. That's it.
Yeah.
So something fell apart there. To me, Scherf makes a lot of sense. Now, some people would say it's a high price item for guard, but who cares? I still think that would be a great one. All right, let's. I think this is a perfect time to do a little prize picks.
Absolutely, we got Giants. We got Jung-Hoo Lee, who is really, really, really
cold.
1.5 hits, runs, RBI. Just any stat for Jung-Hoo. What do you think? 1.5. Jeez, man.
What what are the numbers?
Hits, runs, and RBIs. If he just gets something, 1.5.
Under.
Oof,
Less.
What are you seeing from John? Is he a
he's
major
doing
league hitter?
nothing,
Is he in a slump, or has he gotten figured out?
It's really tough to say because the KBO is kind of like it's like kind of AAA. People look at those
Quadruple A.
stats and we're like, oh yeah, he's going to do it in the majors, and I'm like, dude, think about the history of baseball. How many great players have come from the KBO? It's not hardly any, like none. And why is that? Because it's not really it's not really major league. It's like AAA. So he had great numbers in AAA. He's a really good defensive player. He's got a good line drive stroke, but right now he is just in a deep, deep funk. He doesn't have power. He doesn't hit for a lot of power. He's probably going to hit like 10, 12 home runs. He doesn't steal bases. So he's got to hit for an average, and he's hitting like 240. So he
seems to hit a lot of like weak fly balls.
Oh, he's getting
it done.
He's getting. Yeah. I kind of predicted this a little bit. I said they're going to challenge him in the middle of the zone with fastballs right down the pipe, and they're going to blow him up. And that's what's happening. Instead of lining that pitch with authority to his power field, right field, he's hitting like lazy fly balls to left center, and pop ups. So he's he's got a long swing. He needs to sit and watch Luis Matos for a couple of weeks. Is what he needs.
Landon Rupp, I like watching Landon Rupp pitch. 4 strikeouts, more or less. He had 4 exactly in his last game against the White Sox.
I like more. I think he's going to be. The Giants need a win bad. I think
yes, they do.
I think he gets a punch out.
Okay, Yaz, I'm looking for Devers, man. What a disappointment he has been so far. I mean, he's just in a massive, massive slump. So 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. He hasn't cleared that in a week.
Can you do strikeouts?
Can we do strikeouts? Yeah, I bet we can do strikeouts. Hold on.
We can?
Home runs, singles, maybe not. I think
that's all positive.
I think Prize Picks is kind of
hitter strikeouts.
Excuse me.
Yes, hitter strikeouts. We'll go over a half.
What are you seeing from Devers? He swings at the first pitch a lot.
It's interesting when he got, first of all, he's got great bat speed so he can hit the fastball, and he had great timing on the breaking ball when he showed up, and then suddenly his timing seems like it's gone on the breaking ball. So I just think it's a small sample size. He's one of the best hitters. He'll get it going.
He's been doing it for a long time. I used to say like, well, he's changing leagues, like give him some time, but I don't think that's as big of a factor anymore in the
everybody
MLB.
Plays everybody, yeah. So
right.
It's not a big factor. But yeah, I'm not worried about Devers. I am worried about Jung-Hoo. I'm not as worried about Adames because Adames is a second half guy. But the Giants have to get a little bit more offense or it's going to be over. They got to get rid of Yaz and they got to get another outfielder.
It's funny. They lost 8-2 last night, and I'm watching the post-game show. I love Laura Britt, does a great job.
Yeah.
Sergio Romo, all of them. But like Wotus, they just went in on Hayden Birdsong for like an hour. And I was like, yeah, he sucks. But like, what about the offense that scored 2 runs? Can we talk about that for 5 minutes? And it was like, we can't talk about can't talk about Devers, can't talk about Romo. It's like, just got to pile on Birdsong. It's like, I don't know. I think there's bigger issues.
You know what it would be the football equivalent? You lose 10-3.
Mm-hmm.
Demo gets burned for a touchdown in the fourth. And every person in the post game is Demo. You scored fucking 3 points.
3 points. You're not going to win that way. You don't win scoring 2 runs, man. It's pretty hard. You've been trying all year. It doesn't work. Try to get to 5. Yeah. Saquon Barkley, week 1, 96.5 rushing yards against Dallas, more or less.
More.
Easy.
More.
Easy
way
money.
Way more. Dallas's run D is just a sieve.
It certainly is. And he should be healthy for this game. I don't know. I mean,
so now wait a second. Because we threw that in there, now we're going to have to wait forever to cash out.
I know. But at least it'll be like something deferred. There it is.
Deferred gratification.
Deferred gratification. Download the app. Use promo code COHN. Play 5. Win $50 in lineups instantly. And in addition, this week's Cohn Zone is sponsored to you by Factor. Number one thing you don't want to do all summer is cook. That's where Factor comes in. Factor's chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals are ready in just 2 minutes, taking the hassle out of eating well. Get started at factormeals.com/Cohn50off and use Cohn50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code Cohn50off at factormeals.com/Cohn50off for 50% off plus free shipping. Thank you.
There you go. A couple more. We're coming down the home stretch. All right. Oh, wait a second. One topic I wanted to get to here. Which 49er? Let's talk about extensions. There's been a lot of people, oh, this guy needs to be extended. That guy needs to be extended. I'm kind of generally against extensions. Not the hair extensions, but the contractual extensions. I'm going to throw you the 9 names of guys that I've seen rumored to be getting contract extensions from the Niners, and you just tell me extend them now, extend them later, meaning later this season, or no extension. Okay? Here we go. Yatir Gross-Matos.
No.
No
extension. No extension for Gross-Matos. Sorry.
I would say the only way I would extend him would be later. He's always had huge talent, and we've seen under Chris, Arden Key, and some of these guys blow up. Ebukam. If Yatir Gross-Matos blew up, I would extend him
That's
later.
Another story, but he'd have to blow up. Yeah.
He'd have to blow up. Like right now, no. Okay, Sam Aquinu.
He was a good story last year. He hasn't done enough to get a multi-year extension, but if they feel that they could get him for, a bargain for an extra year, why not? He seemed like a good player, a good contributor. I'm pro Samo.
I would say he's a later extension guy. Like I'm not signing him to an extension now. I wouldn't say no extension, but it would have to be the same thing as Yatir Gross-Matos. If Sam Aquinu has some bust out awesome year in November, I'll buy out his free agency and give him a 2-year deal for decent money. Because I like him as a guy, and if I like him as a player, but I'm not doing anything right now. He'd have to bust out. D. Winters.
Not yet. He hasn't shown it yet. Let him win that competition with Nick Martin. I'm not sure he will.
Yeah. No, I would say no. Juwan Jennings.
I would extend Juwan Jennings. I just don't know that they will after already extending Ayuk. But I think he'll be half the price of Brandon Ayuk. And he fits their culture. Like, he's exactly what they want. He's a dog. He doesn't seem to care about his stats. He got thrown out of the last game blocking, and he didn't get 1,000 yards. I mean, he is Brock Purdy's safety valve. If Brock Purdy is under pressure and can't really see, he's throwing it up blindly to Juwan Jennings. We've seen him do it any number of times, and I think that's significant. That's Purdy's guy.
This is a culture player, but they kissed off Greenlaw, and he was also a culture player. But Juwan Jennings is a culture player. So I've seen $20 million a year, no. $15 million a year, no. But if I could get him for like 2 years for $25 million, like 12.5, I'd sign him to a 2-year, $25 million contract. If I could get him at that rate. I think he'll get 15 a year.
Like Cooper,
I think he's going to get more.
Yeah,
I think he's going to get 15.
Get 345.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
345.
No, I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't give him 3 years, 45. For that, he's going to go elsewhere.
That's what Cooper Kupp just got, and Cooper Kupp is kind of washed.
Yeah, but he was. Yeah. He was a star player. And Juwan was never really a star.
It's true.
I love Juwan though. He is a culture player, and I'd go to him and I'd say, how about this? 2 years, 1 year at 12, 1 year at 13. How about that? 2 years, $25 million. Good chunk of it guaranteed. How about that? You've made less than market. Let's buy out free agency.
Built to last? It's not built on speed. I mean, he's the kind of wide receiver who might be good at 33 years old.
I want him on my team. I want him on my team. All right, Spencer Burford. Extend him now, extend him later, no extension.
That's an interesting one, right? Because if the Niners had extended Jalen Moore this time last year, they could have extended him. They would have gotten him for cheap. Instead, he ends up getting $15 million a year with Kansas City. Burford could be in the same exact boat. It's a great call. If he looks good in preseason, they might want to extend him. That would be a smart move, actually. Offensive linemen are so hard to find. You've been developing this guy. He's still like 23 or 24. Why not?
I'll just say this. He's physically the prototype of what you're looking for in an offensive lineman. Big guy, long arms. He's a smart guy too. He's not stupid. He's really smart. And he's got really He's really motivated. He spent a lot of the summer in Houston working out with Trent. So I really like Burford as a guy. I kind of agree. Jalen Moore. Do you know that Jalen Moore is the 9th highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL right now? Jalen Moore, 9th offensive lineman, 9th highest paid offensive lineman. Now, this guy's going to play more tackle than guard, which should help his money in the future. But it's all about his footwork and how quick are his feet. If he can get his feet quick, yeah, I think I would sign this guy. I would do a preemptive strike for continuity purposes. You want continuity on your offensive line. How about Trent Williams? He's got no more guaranteed money left. You want to do an extension now? You want to do an extension later? You don't want to do any more extensions for Trent?
Enough. No more extensions for Trent. I'm sorry. You get hurt a lot. You're almost 37 years old. Even when you're healthy, you don't play the full season. No, I'm sorry. We just gave you an extension. We're not going to give you a new extension every 2 years. No, absolutely not. No.
Yeah, no, I think he's in a new area. It's like we're all going year to year. We're not going to put you out there in any meaningless games like like last year. But also, there's no, so we're not going to spend your body out there when there's nothing on the line, but we're also not going to extend you. We'll go year to year. Kevin Givens, I would say no extension.
Trevor Williams is the highest paid non-quarterback of all time in the NFL. He's been compensated.
What's that? Trent Williams.
Trent Williams is the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL.
Oh,
He's been compensated, man. I'm like, you need to play.
How about Kevin Givens, Jordan Elliott?
No on Jordan Elliott, and why not on Kevin Givens? You know that Kevin Givens is like the 3rd longest tenured player on the team. He's been on the team since 2019. Him and Bosa, incredible.
Yeah,
he can be on the team for 10 years. No one would know it. Got to keep him on here. Good luck.
I would say no. Give me Colton McKivitz. You want to extend him now? Extend him later? No extension.
I actually think he's gotten kind of expensive. That if you extend Colton McKivitz at this point, you're probably looking at $15 million a year if that's what Jalen Moore got. And I think the thing with Colton McKivitz is like you like him for the price he was at now and last year at $15+ million a year. He's still a guy who's going to give up about 8 to 10 sacks a season. I mean, I'm not super excited about. No.
I would extend him now because I would say 2 years, $20 million, because you can't. Otherwise, you're going to have no offensive tackles potentially a year from now.
That's true.
That would be my.
Gotta have it.
Yeah. Okay. Niners went 1-5 inside the division last year. What will they do inside the division this year? To me, that was, if you say number one reason the Niners fell apart, the injuries and everything kind of caught up with them. But going 1-5 inside the division was a major part of it. What are they going to do this year in the division?
I think they'll be okay if they can go 3-3. And I think that's sort of where they should be. I mean, they're not head and shoulders better than any team in the division, and they're not necessarily way worse. They could take one from the Rams. They could take one from the Cardinals. They could take one from the Seahawks. Because last year what happened was they were in close games with, I mean, all of those games were close games, right? And they just found ways to lose all but one. I think those things should even out. And if Brock Purdy is the franchise quarterback the Niners think he is, then he's going to have his moments where he steps up and is the reason they win these games. So I would think 3-3 at worst in the division.
I'm going to say 4-2. I think they sweep Seattle. I think Seattle is going to get a comeuppance this year. I think they've got problems on offense. I don't think Darnold's going to be the guy. I think by the end of the year, they're going to be, hey, Milrose our guy. We shouldn't have signed Darnold. So I think Seattle is the team that they sweep, and then I think they split with Arizona and the Rams. So I'll say 4-2 in the division. But it's tough. It's going to be a very difficult division going forward because
Leonard Williams had 11 sacks last year. He's going up against Ben Barch. I mean, that's another reason to get Brandon Scherf. That guy's good. Yeah.
Couple last topics here. This is one that I thought you had that I thought was really interesting. And it's how healthy is the Niner locker room culture currently? The Niners had that whole thing with Debo and Tabor. And then Shanahan kind of oddly, instead of just kind of trying to diffuse the whole thing, kind of pointed the finger at Pepper, which really probably didn't rub everybody the right way, but whatever. I'm not saying Shanahan's losing the room. But after that incident, The Niners lost 7 of 8. And I don't know if that fracas was the reason or if it was the lack of talent or the injuries or whatever. You mentioned that Shanahan has a culture of double standards because he did kind of he was cool with Debo hitting Pepper, but he's going Ayuk must take off the wrong colored shorts for the right colored shorts. But what do you think? Where's the nine? This is one of those things we really can't get an answer on. This is all just speculative. How healthy is the Niner locker room culture collectively in its current state? What do you think?
I mean, that's what they need to prove this year. That's what's at stake. Brandon Ayuk's little emotional outbursts on social media don't paint a great picture, but it seems like the rest of the team is pretty harmonious right now. I think the issue last year was not that Debo hit Tabor. That could have been the moment that rallied the whole team together. I mean, sports are funny. Sometimes that was the crossroads of the season, and it didn't go well afterwards. And I think the reason is not because it happened, but more because Kyle didn't do anything about it. He sort of made an excuse for Debo, kind of put it on Tabor, but didn't really blame anyone and just tried to play pass and be like, it's no big deal, we won. Nah, it's a big deal. You have to address it. And I think with Kyle, he's so good with offense. He's so good with play design, but there's a little bit of a gap in terms of face-to-face leadership. This was an opportunity last year for him to take ownership of the team and rally the team, and he missed it. So I'd like to see if he can do that this year. I think the team needs it.
It's interesting. I would say that the room's pretty solid. I don't think it's a room coming apart. It doesn't seem to be a room full of issues. Right. No, that's true. It's true. I mean, it's easy to be stress-free in a stress-free off season. It's when you start mounting losses and injuries and pressure. And I mean, I definitely get the sense that the Yorks have put their impact on the thing, which is never a good thing. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. But as far as the budget and how the money's spent and how much is spent. But I do think Lynch is such a good former player as far as he understands culture. And so I think he set up his contracts the right way. I think he set up his pecking order the right way. I don't see a lot of, guys from the outside world handed big dollars to come in, sitting, first on the depth chart in front of guys who have been grinding. You know what I mean? Sometimes your roster can fall apart if you spend your free agent dollars the wrong way. So I think their locker room culture is kind of neutral. I think there's a belief in Shanahan and Lynch, but at the same time, I think I think everybody understands that if Kyle likes you, that means more than really all else. That's why Juice is here. That's why some of these guys are still here because Kyle likes them. So, having Kyle in your corner is quite valuable, and he definitely has his favorites. And I think that when you're no longer his favorites, I've heard Joe Banner and others, guys who've worked with him in the past, said, hey, there's no going back when he doesn't want you anymore. So I think the players are aware of that.
They seem like they used to be such a tight-knit team, like 2019, when they were younger, and they hadn't made as much money, and they were more innocent. I mean, when George was in his 20s, it seemed like when Joe Staley was on the team, it seemed like these guys were genuinely friends and genuinely looking forward to vacationing with each other. Last year seemed like it was depressing and stressful, and they're trying their best to make it work, but it kind of feels like a group that maybe has held on and stayed together a little too long, and all the disappointments and coming up short has gotten to them. I wonder, again, if they go 13-4 this year, they'll love each other. But when something goes wrong, are they really as tight-knit as they were 4 years ago when they could start the season 3-5 and turn it all around? We expected that they could do that last year. They were 5-4 last year. It's like, here we go. We've seen them do this, and they couldn't. So I'm curious, do they still have that, I don't know, that youth?
Well, and that enthusiasm for, the sport has a way of tearing you down. And, once everybody, it's one thing when you're coming up and you're all young together, it's one thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you know what? The sand is going out of the hourglass. It's time to get paid. It's time to set up my family. And if that means I got to go somewhere. So everybody becomes a little bit, they wear two jerseys. They wear the Niner jersey and they wear Team Kittle jersey, Team Greenlaw jersey, Team Ward jersey, whatever. And
Team
I
Shanahan.
just think that, yeah, I think it's a factor, and it's a bigger factor the older your roster gets. And the Niners have paid a lot of their guys. So it's not like all these guys that make money are all gone. They're all in the room still. Now they're making money, and they're thinking about their mortality and maybe thinking about life after football. And, I think some of these things have an impact on a football team over time. All right, two last thoughts. Biggest roster weakness on July 2nd. Biggest roster weakness.
I still think it's the offensive line. And I say biggest in the sense of like most significant, because they're the ones in charge of Brock Purdy. They're the ones protecting the franchise player. And I don't like the idea that you took last year's offensive line and made it thinner. I think in an offensive line with Trent Williams, the backup left tackle is really important, and you got worse at that spot. And yeah, Aaron Banks isn't great, but you got worse at left guard too. I don't think that's okay when you spent all this money to keep Brock Purdy. If he gets hurt, he's got an excuse. If he gets seriously hurt, you're culpable. So Brandon Scherff's available. I'd like to see them fortify their line and really protect their investment, because even though he's not a top 5 quarterback, he is the most important player in the franchise by far.
I'm going to say pass rush. I'm going to say pass rush is the biggest concern, and interior pass rush. They spent $20 million to get Javon Hargrave. They determined that interior pass rush was worth paying money for. And now a couple years later, you're looking at a group of defensive tackles that Alfred Collins, great against the run. Jordan Elliott, not really great against the run or the pass. CJ West, definitely stronger against the run. Givens is a pass rusher, but he's more of a rotation player. Same with Kalia Davis. Evan Anderson's a run player. I mean, your best interior pass rusher may be Sebastian Valdez. I'm a little concerned about their pass rush, especially inside, which is why I've been jumping up and down saying, go get Shamar Stewart, because I think he could really help both their inside pass rush and their outside pass rush. And from what I can tell, he's probably going to get traded. All right, last one. Give me a bold prediction. A bold prediction that maybe people will walk out of here going, man, Grant Cohn is crazy. But, maybe 7-8 weeks from now, they're going to say, I heard Grant Cohn first week in July say this. So it's not that crazy. Give me a bold prediction on July the 2nd.
Look, I don't know if the youngsters on defense are going to grow up rapidly, or if the older players on offense are going to stay healthy. I don't know. But I have a feeling that we're going to see the best of Kyle this year. I mean, he knows he's under the microscope. He knows he's more vulnerable than he's ever been, that, people like me have been able to just sit here with smirks on their faces and take shots all off season. And there's really nothing he can say. I mean, Niner fans aren't that happy with him right now. I don't know if Niner owners are very happy with him right now. It's all about Brock. And now he needs to show that he's the right coach for Brock moving forward. And I think he's going to rise to the challenge. Doesn't mean that the team will stay healthy and that they'll ultimately win the Super Bowl, but I just have a feeling Kyle's going to kick ass this year.
I like it. Positive Cohn on Shanahan.
I'm a big Kyle guy, though, as we all know.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, that's one for the archives. I may have to put that out in a social media post. All right. My bold prediction, and this is a little wild, but as you know, I'll go a little wild every now and then. I just got the vibe from looking at these guys in minicamp that when they put on the pads and they start going for real, that Tanner Mordecai is going to look a lot better than Mac Jones in this offense for lots of reasons. He's faster. He's got a stronger arm. He's got more reps with these receivers. Shanahan's offense is almost proven that you're not as good in year one as you are in year two. Mordecai's had that redshirt year. He knows the entire thing like the back of his hand. There's all kinds of shifts and motions and check with me's and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of volume in this offense. It's very multiple as far as the breadth and size of the playbook. So all I'm saying is I think Mordecai in the system a lot longer, outplays Mac Jones in the practices, gets into the preseason and badly outplays Mac Jones in the preseason. And then at the cutdown, I think the Niners wind up doing kind of the unthinkable. I think they give Mordecai the number 2 job. They wind up trading Mac Jones, who I think could look okay, but not as good as Mordecai, for a day 3 draft choice to an Indianapolis or somebody like that. And you saw who Brock Purdy and George Kittle were working out with in Nashville. CJ Beathard. I could easily see them calling CJ Beathard, who does not have a home. And obviously, Kittle loves him, Purdy loves him, Kyle loves him. Everybody's told us a million times how tough he is. I don't think the Niners will pay Mac Jones nearly $5 million to be their third-string quarterback. And if Mordecai beats him out, and I think he will, I think Jones gets passed off, and I think somebody, and I don't know who it will be, I'll predict C.J. Beathard, but it could be somebody else. It could be somebody more exciting. But my guess is Brock's the 1, Mordecai's the 2, question mark is the 3, and Rourke is the 4th, and Mac Jones's Niner career is very short. What do you think?
I think it's a great prediction. I think it's a bold prediction. I like that you put yourself out there. I don't know that I necessarily agree, but I don't disagree. I haven't seen that much of Tanner Mordecai, but what I feel like is they don't give him a lot of reps in practice, and it's hard to impress when it's like 4 throws for Brock, 4 for Mac, and like 1 or 2 for you, and then it's Brock all over again. So it's like you're pressing, you don't get a lot of ops, but I thought in preseason, like he's going to play in a preseason. And I thought he looked good in the preseason last year. Like he's got a stronger arm than you think. He's faster than you think. Like he looks out there, it's like,
he's fast.
It looks like Brock Purdy out there. It's like, yeah, but way faster and with a much stronger arm. Maybe not good, but he has these traits and these tools. You're like, I can see what you mean, man, because Mac's not going to move like that. He doesn't really have a fastball. Another thing I heard about Tanner Mordecai, scratch golfer.
Great athlete.
Really good athlete, dude.
Yeah,
really
underrated athlete. Athlete. You got to remember this, too. Tanner Mordecai runs 4.46. That's fast. Really fast. That's faster really than Brock Purdy. Yeah. So, I mean, Brock Purdy's quicker than Mordecai, but if Mordecai gets out and runs, Mordecai can take it to the house. He's fast. Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking that Mac Jones, I can kind of see Mac Jones. It's like he processes well, but he's not mobile, and this line's not good. I mean, it's not great.
His confidence is absolutely shattered, Larry. He's going to have to rebuild that slowly.
And didn't once upon a time, didn't Kyle Shanahan tell us he wasn't interested in Colin Kaepernick because he needed the backup to be similar to the starter? Well, isn't Tanner Mordecai way more similar to the starter than Mac Jones?
He is. Hey, can we do one bonus topic real quick before we get out of here? Warriors. They lost Kevon Looney. They got Trace Jackson Davis and Quentin Perimeter as center. What are they going to do, man? What are they going to do?
They want Al Horford. They're battling the Lakers 50. For Al Horford, and Al Horford, the Lakers, I think, are getting DeAndre Ayton. So I would say the Warriors have a pretty good chance to get Al Horford. I also think that they could trade Jonathan Kuminga. The teams that I would look for would be Sacramento, maybe in a deal involving Malik Monk, Miami, possibly in a deal involving the guy they just drafted out of Illinois, Kasparis Jakashunas or something like that, and the guy from your neck of the woods, UCLA, Jaime Jaquez.
I like him.
Yeah, I do too. Jaquez is a super gamer, and he's tough, and Jaquez and that kid, and Davion Mitchell or some. I could see Miami throwing some pieces, or Chicago for Kobe White.
I don't think he can play with Steph, for better or for worse.
Well, here's the bottom line. I think Steph, the unspoken part of this is that Steve Kerr made the call. Everyone to blame Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr. Do you really believe that Steve Kerr was going to sit Jonathan Kuminga against the wishes of Butler, Green, and Curry? No.
Steph gave him the thumbs down.
Yeah, exactly. And then and Steph's not going to wear that because Steph's not going to make Steve look like like he's calling the shots. Yeah, he's not going to make him look like a puppet. So that's the way it's done. So I think Steph didn't want Kuminga. I don't think Steph likes to play with Kuminga. I don't think their games blend. Kuminga's, I think, a great athlete who needs to play probably on a second division team and get minutes.
I think he'd be
I don't think
happier
he's
playing on a bad team, putting up stats.
yeah. I think but Joe loves him, and they know that he's their only asset that they have left to really build anything. So, the Warriors are going to hold out until the 11th hour to make sure they get a good asset. But I would guess Al Horford signs with the Warriors, and the Warriors trade Kuminga to Miami for a package that includes Jaquez, Davion Mitchell, and the kid from Illinois. That would be my guess.
I like that. That would be exciting.
It would. Let's hit some supers here. I forgot the supers. Sorry, guys, for the supers. Sometimes I get into the conversation with Grant. I forget where our supers.
We just have such an incredible conversation.
Matt Sanders says, this team isn't championship caliber regardless of any free agent additions. Despite Salah, this defense is young and suspect. A top 10 finish would be overachievement with all of this youth, even with the easy schedule. Fundamentals take time. That's it. It's you know what? Matt Sanders makes a lot of good points. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and I can't really sit there and negate this and say, oh, he's absolutely wrong. I guess the question is this: how much of an impact can Robert Saleh make? How bad of a coordinator was Nick Sorensen? How bad of a coordinator was Schneider? How much of an impact can Boyer make? How much better can they be on defense and special teams?
A lot.
Is Brock Purdy the 24 Brock Purdy, or is Brock Purdy the guy we saw the previous 2 years?
Can you remember one blitz from Sorensen that was good? One.
Dude, Sorensen,
No offense.
I hate to say this, I was done with Sorensen. Absolutely done with Sorensen. No, after the Minnesota game, when he got Justin Jefferson ISO'd against George Odom, and when I asked him what happened with that coverage that couldn't be what you'd like, he's like, just a communication breakdown. And so, George Odom can't cover Justin Jefferson in any world. So any matchup that got him ISO'd on Odom is probably, you getting outcoached. Probably.
It's funny. The Vikings got the Niners' last two defensive coordinators fired.
And then the Vikings went and took Javon Hargrave.
That's right.
It's like they had Javon.
Yeah.
Corey Kuhlman. What's Larry's thoughts on Week 1 against Seattle? Also, why are the Niners fans dismissing the loss of Greenlaw? This loss is really going to hurt. Well, the loss of Greenlaw.
He didn't play last year.
Yeah, he didn't play last year. That's a big part of it. Also, I think it's pretty obvious that, the reason that the Niners said goodbye to Greenlaw is his body is breaking down, and it's already broken down. He's not healthy
He's
right
hurt
now.
right now. Yeah, he's hurt right now.
So, some guys are so vicious. And so what did I love about Greenlaw? What did Grant love about Greenlaw? What did you guys love about Greenlaw? He was vicious. But that's also why it's also why you couldn't give him that money. And I wanted to bring him back, but even I was admitting this is more emotional than it is logical. And it's a young man's game, and they need to go younger at linebacker. But the loss of Greenlaw will be felt in the locker room because he's a tone-setting player, and he's super tough. And you can never have enough of those guys. As far as Week 1 against Seattle, I think Brock Purdy is really, really good against Seattle. And I like getting Seattle Week 1 since Darnold's got a defensive head coach, a lot of quarterbacks they want to take a look at this summer, and I think he struggles. We got this one.
Seattle's going to run the ball a lot in that game. They got a new defense. It's Clint Kubiak running that offense. It's going to be a different approach. And the Niners' run defense needs to be ready. And they know that's their biggest weakness. They spent all offseason trying to address it. Alfred Collins needs to be in practice. He's going to be important in that game.
Kenneth Walker and the UCLA Charbonnet, yeah. Alejandro Buen Rostro says, why not get assets instead of signing these guys? I'm not sure what he means by that.
Me neither. Sorry, Alejandro.
Sorry. Chris. Thank you, Chris. He said, who thinks the 49ers wanted to lose the last 3 games for draft position, and why aren't we celebrating not having Devondre Campbell around missing tackles? Devondre Campbell is addition by subtraction. And I think the Niners did turn it off. To me, if you want to know if the Niners are in it to win it or not, watch Trent Williams and the way they treat him. They will not put him out there when they have no shot. As soon as Trent was not out, as soon as he wasn't there, they weren't the same team. As soon as it was decided he wasn't coming back, the season was over. The results didn't matter, really.
Pretty much.
I mean, I don't put a lot into that.
And what does it tell the rest of the team if like Trent's, could play but isn't playing? That kind of says that the coaches have decided that it's not worth it. It's kind of deflating.
There's a time to call off the dogs. Tuck tail and build back for next year, and that's kind of what the Niners did. That's what they did. We'll see if it benefits them this year, because that's what you gave away last year. Hopefully, you get at the beginning of this year.
That's right.
That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor. Grant, I'll give you the final word before we hit the ripcord.
Thanks to Factor. Thanks to Prize Picks. Thanks to my mom and dad for having me. Thanks for you guys for watching.
I'd like to thank the Academy.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.